Pet Cemetery is the 5th episode of the 5th season of Everybody Loves Raymond. This is directed by Ken Levine, and on the one hand, it's beautiful, it's lovely, and it's quite funny, but I never ever want to watch it again, because by the end of it, I was a bit of an emotional wreck. It starts off really dramatic. There will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts, and Robert comes in and Ray shouts for him to stop. Ray has lost Pumpernickel, the hamster, and they start making hamster noises to try and find him. Marie and Frank then come over to find the hamster, and we find out the hamster is in the freezer. It's in the box of Fudge Pops. And apparently Ray realises that he brought the groceries in. The Fudge Pops box was on the counter. The hamster must have got inside of it and got into the freezer that way, which I guess makes sense. And he thinks he can just buy another hamster. But Robert won't let him, because Ali will know. And even if Ali doesn't know, Robert refuses to let her be deceived like that. And Robert decides they're going to take the hamster to the vet because it's frozen. Maybe they can revive it. And meanwhile, Marie is cleaning out the freezer while Frank is sleeping on the sofa. And we definitely have a lot of comedy in this, but for every funny moment, there's a really emotional moment as well. And it turns out they couldn't revive the hamster. A big surprise. And they bought another hamster on the way home. And Ray initially tries to pass it off as Pumpernickel, but Ali realises this isn't Pumpernickel. And Ray basically says, "Here's your replacement." And she shouts and storms up the stairs and she says, "I don't want a replacement, Daddy." To which Robert responds, "I think that's exactly what she needs, a replacement daddy." Definitely picked the mood up a little bit. And the rest of the episode, I'd say pretty much the second half of the episode, is sweet and moving and emotional. Ray is digging a hole in the garden, and this is mostly because Debra thinks that Ali will really benefit from giving the hamster a funeral, and I completely agree with that. Ray doesn't agree with this because it's raining and he has to dig a hole, but he digs the hole. Everybody comes out, they're in their rain jackets and their outdoor gear, and Ali wants everybody to say something, and they can put some dirt on the shoebox and give Pumpernickel a send-off. And Frank says something, Marie says something, Robert says death, and then there's a pause, and then he says something quite meaningful, and even the twins take a turn to step forward and say goodbye to Pumpernickel, and I held it together until Ali stepped forward and said that she'll always be thinking of him. And it broke me. At that point, it absolutely broke me. And Frank is crying, and Ray realises that Ali is growing up, and he gets emotional because she's still his little girl, and she's hurting because of the dead hamster, and it's beautiful. It's really moving. And then immediately after, Ali asks, "Daddy, can we get a rabbit tomorrow?" I'm not saying she's completely moved on, but it does show that children can adapt to these kind of situations in ways that can be quite surprising. And it's definitely a very emotional scene, though. And then we bring the comedy back up a little bit at the end. Frank comes in with his metal detector. He found some coins in the garden, and it was not a bad way to end things. And it's brutal, but I think it's very moving and very, very well done. And I never want to watch it again because I watch the show to be happy, to escape reality. That's not to say I don't mind more emotional moments, but when it comes to animals, I can't deal with it. I really can't deal with it, but I have nothing but praise for the episode. I think Pet Cemetery, in fact, I'm going to check. I don't know if I've looked on IMDb at the top rated Raymond episodes, but I'm going to have a check and see where it is. According to IMDb, it is not in the top 10. I won't say which ones are in the top. I might do when I get to some of those episodes. But okay, it's number 200. So never mind. It's not in the top 10 on IMDb, but I think it's a very strong episode. Not the funniest, but there are funny moments, but definitely very powerful. And ultimately, while I never ever want to see it again, I can't fault Pet Cemetery.